Alright guys, this is it. This is my breakdown of the upcoming welterweight title fight between Manny Pacquiao and Timothy Bradley. I honestly did not know who I was going to pick in this fight until this morning. I tried my best to factor in everything that I knew about each fighter, break it down the best I could, and come up with the most logical outcome of this fight. First, I'm going to talk about the challenger, Timothy Bradley. Bradley's one of those guys that doesn't wow you with anything that he does as far as physically. I watched about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 of his fights, his most recent fights. I watched his fight with Junior Witter because he was going against the Southpaw. I watched his fight with Joe Casamayor because he was going against the Southpaw. I watched his fight with Kendall Hall. And I watched his fight with, who was the last guy? Lamont Peterson. I also watched his one fight at welterweight against Abrego. Bradley is what you call an all-around pressure technician. He's one of those guys that doesn't look as good as he is. So you got to be careful when you assess a guy like that. And because just because a guy doesn't wow you, that doesn't mean he's not doing much. You know, there's been a lot of guys in history who have that quality where they don't stand out as far as being dynamic, but they have a way about them where they win fights and they're very effective. Emil Griffin is one of them. If you watch an old tape of Emil Griffin, you're like, but then when you look at his record, you look at his title fights, you look at the guys he's fought, you're like, wow, this dude's a hell of a fighter. So you got to be careful when you overdo it and you just fall in love with the power and the speed and the offensively dynamic type of fighters, because that doesn't always equate to a guy being a great fighter or not. So I was looking at Bradley. Bradley's strength is in his mental toughness and his conditioning. Bradley's a conditioned fighter. Bradley has the ability to take the action. What I mean by take the action is whenever you throw an offensive volley of punches, Bradley's right there to say, wait a minute, I'm going to take this back and let these judges know that I'm in control of this. Bradley is one of the few guys that's like that. You know, if you look at Pacquiao's career, people say that he has trouble with boxers, he has trouble with this, he has trouble with that. The main thing he has trouble with is with guys who can take the action. After he throws a volley of punches, they can come back with their own and they can consistently do it. Morales and Marquez are both experts at taking the action, and both of them gave Manny a lot of trouble. Barrera's good at it too, but for some reason Barrera couldn't find the right combination of punches to be effective with Manny over a long period of time. Timothy Bradley is an expert at that. I also watched him fight Devin Alexander, and every time Alexander would land something good, Bradley would make sure he let the judges know, I'm controlling this fight. That's very important. Bradley also has the ability to sort of come forward and rest. He has a cute little maneuver he does where it's not like Tyson, but he's just parrying punches and he's walking forward. That's very important in this fight because as conditioned as these guys are, they're going to need a rest. I don't care who you are, when you're fighting at this level, you're going to find a way to steal a rest. We can't see it with our naked eye, but they're getting rest in the fight. The biggest problem that I have with Bradley is the way he delivers his punches. Bradley has a lot of holes offensively. He pulls his head off the mark. What I mean by that is he'll turn his head while he's punching, and his punches are not as accurate. He flails a little bit. What I mean by that is his punches will come like this instead of being turned over on knuckle. And he kind of gives you a gap in between his shots where you can catch Bradley. But you got to be a sharpshooter because he's not 28-0 for no reason. I also think Bradley does not use his jab enough. I think Bradley has to use his jab a little bit more in this fight. It doesn't have to land, but it has to disrupt Manny's that weird herky-jerky rhythm that Manny has. So I see a pressure technician. I see a very tough fighter. I see a fighter with excellent stamina. But I do see a guy who has some offensive holes. I want to touch on another thing. Bradley's chin. You guys, people keep talking about, well, Kendall Holt knocked him down. Kendall Holt is a vicious puncher. For one shot, I will put Kendall Holt's left hook up against Manny Pacquiao's straight left hand. I'm telling you guys, I've been in the gym with Kendall. Kendall can punch. He's not as good as Manny, of course. I'm not saying that. But I'm talking about for punching power, Kendall Holt can really punch. The shot that Kendall Holt knocked Timothy Bradley down with would have knocked out 99.9% of fighters that ever walked around at 140 pounds. I'm telling you, that was a brutal shot. Don't get into Timothy Bradley not having a chin and all that. He recovered immediately, got himself together, and went back to work. I'm not saying the guy got a chin like Marvin Hagler, but all I'm saying is that, you know, people keep saying, I don't know if Bradley could take a punch. He was knocked down by a money shot early in the fight, and they caught him on the button. That's a tough, I don't care who you are, you're going to get hurt from that shot. I'm going to go to Pacquiao now. I keep watching the Marquez fight, and I'm trying to see what everybody is saying when they keep saying Pacquiao slipped. I even listened for the HBO announcers, and they were talking about how strong and fast he was. I don't believe Manny has slipped as much physically as people think that he has. I thought he won that fight from Marquez. I thought the problem is the expectations were so high on what he would do at Marquez at the higher weights because of the success that he was having. It was almost like it was a comparative judgment against him. Like, well, you didn't dominate, so you lost the fight. That's not fair. I thought Manny won that fight, and I thought we're taking too much credit away from Marquez's unbelievable performance. Marquez fought his ass off in that fight. I do think this is where Manny may be slipping, though, mentally. I don't like the comments that Freddie Roach is saying, well, if he doesn't be impressive this fight, then I'm going to tell him retire. And Bob Arum is saying, well, if he shows up like he did against Marquez, he's going to lose. Manny didn't fight that bad that fight. Marquez fought a great fight, and I think Manny is a little worn out mentally. I saw a fighter who was frustrated because he couldn't land his Sunday punch. That's where I think Manny may have slipped at. Not physically. Look at his body. Look at his reflexes. Look at his punches. Look at his reaction time in that fight. Look at it real close because it's on HBO on demand. Manny was fine physically. He was sharp. He was fine. Marquez took the play away from him in a lot of the rounds. The rounds that Manny won were kind of close. The rounds that Marquez won were kind of big. So I think mentally he may be a little bit drained to have to keep going through. He's like, damn, you know, I should be better now. I should be dominating this guy more because that's what everybody was saying he should be doing to Marquez. I think he got frustrated that fight. I think the stuff that's going on with Alex Ariza, Freddie Roach, you know, his problems with his wife. I don't care who you are. Eventually that's going to catch up to you. I think he's been doing a great job of hiding and overcoming these things in his personal life, but it takes a toll on you. I think that's the problem in this fight for Manny. Mentally, when things don't go his way, will he become frustrated and just kind of fight that monotonous, bland, one-way fight, just trying to land that left hand, or will he become creative and make adjustments? Manny's good at making adjustments. Look at the early rounds of the Cotto fight. You know, look at the early rounds of the Hatton fight. Everybody was waiting on his left hand. He caught Hatton with a check right hook. He's good at making adjustments. I'm not saying he's as good as Floyd Mayweather, but he's very good at making adjustments. But will he make the adjustments in this fight is the key. Mentally, does he have it to keep going on and figuring it out and pushing and things like that? That's what I see. I don't see a fighter that's really slipped too much physically. History shows that the fighter that's sort of at his apex, like say Alexis Arguello and Aaron Pryor, when Manny Pacquiao, Manny Arguello in this match, when he fights that high energy guy that can put out a lot. A lot of times, historically, that fighter has pushed the other guy over the edge. Ricky Hatton did it to Costa Azul. Jermaine Taylor sort of did it to Bernard Hopkins. Barry McGuigan did it to Eusebio Pedrosa. It's happened a lot in history. For some reason, I get the feeling that Timothy Bradley, at 28 years old, with 29 professional fights, can put out more than what Manny Pacquiao can at 33 years old with 60 professional fights. I just get that feeling. I don't know why. I'm not saying that Timothy Bradley is better than Manny Pacquiao, because I believe Pacquiao is the better fighter. But the better fighter doesn't always win. It's the fighter who's best on that night. I've picked against Manny Pacquiao twice since he's come over here to the United States. Against Marco Antonio Barrera, and I was so wrong. He won every round and destroyed Barrera. I picked against him against Oscar De La Hoya, and he made an ass out of me again. I watched the Agapito Sanchez fight, and I saw how Sanchez was able to crowd Manny. I don't think that Freddie Roach, I don't think that Freddie Roach has corrected Manny's problem of kind of, ear muffing it a little bit and getting his rest. I hate the way Manny steals a rest in a fight. See, it didn't show up before when he could put out a little bit more. But now it's starting to show up against Clottey. Clottey will have a little bit of success, but Manny threw 1,200 punches against Clottey. So the gaps over when Manny did like this, there was few far and in between. This is not a knock against Tim Bradley, what I'm about to say, but I think Bradley does use his head. And I don't have a problem with fighters using their head in a certain way. I'm not a advocate of dirty fighting or Andrew Galata type of fighting. But Bradley uses his head in a slick way. I've been watching this fight. It's a lot of headbutts. All of that can't be an accident. And the crown of your head is the hardest part of your body. I think Bradley puts his head down, which he should do to tuck his chin and protect himself. But at the same time, it's a deterrent, because you don't want to go in when a guy is like this or a guy is maneuvering like this. Holyfield's an expert at it. Duran is an expert at it. It's just, it's a deterrent. And Manny Pacquiao, I think, he has turbo scar tissue over one of his eyes. I think the head's going to play a part in this fight. I do think Pacquiao's going to get butted. I do think that a cut is going to cause. I think that Bradley's going to rally with his overhand right and his combinations, and Pacquiao's going to kind of earmuff a little bit. I think Bradley is going to steal a 114, 113 type of decision. I know you guys probably think I'm crazy. I try to be as fair as I can with this, and this is just what I'm coming up with. For all of the bettors out there, I would take Bradley by decision, or I would even put something on some kind of technical decision or an abbreviated ending, because I do believe headbutts will play a big part in this fight. It's a close fight. It's not out of the question that Manny Pacquiao could catch Tim Bradley with a right hook. Pacquiao doesn't lead with his right hand, but he does check hook and counter when you come to him. So I can see that scenario happening. But you twisting my arm. This is a close fight. I think the judges subconsciously are not going to give Pacquiao two close fights like this in a row. I think it's going to be razor close. I think Tim Bradley is in an absolute zone. His body language tells me that he's willing to die tonight. I think Pacquiao's not going to lay down. He's going to rumble his butt off. But something just tells me that the younger, fresher man who is going to win this fight. So I'm going to take Tim Bradley by razor close, maybe controversial decision. Man, I still can't believe I'm picking against Pacquiao, because he's made a fool of me twice. I just knew De La Hoya would knock him out, and I knew Barrera was going to beat him, and I was wrong. But something about this fight So that's just what it is. And we're going to see Saturday night if I was right or not. And if I'm wrong, I'll live with it. See you guys later.